This is the crossover season. So have you fully crossed over to basketball, or are you still lingering with football?
Oh my God, it's an existential crisis, isn't it? Buddy, let me tell you. Last week, watching UNC play Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse,
Yeah.
I was fully like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's basketball. Basketball season is here. But yeah, if you use the emojis, I feel like I got the squiggly eyes that are going crazy.
I bet you do. So let me start with football real quick.
Go for it.
Because based on everything that has happened around the program the last few weeks, it feels like the week off came at the absolute best time, because the emotions of seeing a teammate die, right? Especially with young people, and I know how close everybody was. I think the bye week happened at the right time. It almost feels like they haven't played football now in a month.
I was saying the other day, we were talking to players the other day, and it sort of occurred to me, they've played 9 games now. And when they play Wake Forest on Saturday night, the date will be November 16th.
Yeah.
And yet, this team feels pretty fresh right now, to be honest with you, because they've had 2 byes in the last 4 weeks. They had as you mentioned, that they lost to Georgia Tech, 4th straight loss. Things were not good. I mean, they had a chance to win that game, and Tech pops a run with 16 seconds left when they were playing for overtime at that point, and they break a run to win the game.
Right.
And Tylee Craft obviously dies during that game, which happened to be their cancer awareness game.
Right.
So yeah, they had the bye after that, which to use the phrase much needed. I mean, it's much needed, much needed. And since that first one, they've been a different team. I mean, I know they have not played the 1985 Chicago Bears, but they destroyed UVA at UVA. They beat Florida State badly at Florida State,
right.
And then they went on another bye. So which leads to my point about the freshness. They've had two byes in 4 weeks here, and now you got a 3-game stretch here, AG, where again you don't have any world beaters. You got Wake Forest at Boston College, and then NC State to finish the regular season, and they could be 8-4. I mean, they're sitting 5-4 right now. They've gone 3-0, 0-4, and if they beat Wake on Saturday night, which they are favored to do, it'll be another 3-0. So they could do something that they haven't done the last couple of years, which is finish strong with all this other stuff, with the death and the questions about Mac Brown's job status and everything else sort of swirling around. They could finish strong. They could go to a nice bowl.
Yeah, that's all true. All of it is true. And it's funny. I've seen questions, what's different about the last couple of weeks? First of all, I don't think we should just completely brush over the win over Virginia, because Carolina doesn't historically play well in Charlottesville. So I think it is a win of significance, but Virginia is also not great. Florida State, everybody has beaten their brains in this year.
Train wreck.
It is unbelievable how, they actually set a record. It's the first time since the preseason poll was instituted, I think like in 1960, that a team started in the top 10 and went 1-9. Ever. First time ever.
I have wondered about that free fall, they're picked to win the league, obviously.
It's incredible. It is, Florida State is what it is. They lost another recruit today. They've lost 6 of their recruiting class to decommits. But as long as they can beat Wake, and Boston College won't be an easy win up there. And then part of me, and I'm not rooting for this necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised, because Wake is one of those teams that just really now you decide to play like what they did to they did it to State. They do it to a lot of teams. They just kind of show up. Like here we are. Deal with us. Like I feel like this is going to be tricky.
And Carolina hasn't given you any indication that they could live with prosperity either.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? Like, Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying stamp it and run to your local FanDuel site and put down everything you got. Put the mortgage down on 8-4.
Right.
But I mean, one of the things with Wake, and when you're looking at trends and stuff, is that game they lost to Cal last week was sort of abysmal. They I think it was 4 turnovers for the Deeks,
Yeah.
and Bachmeier got sacked 7 times. He has been. I was looking at the numbers the other day. He's been sacked, I think, 22 times in 5 ACC games. I've got a story on it if you'd like to read it. And that sort of with Wake Carolina is playing on defense. I mean, oh my God, 17 sacks in the last 2 games. AG,
Mm-hmm.
They lead the ACC in sacks. They're 4th in the country in sacks. They've already surpassed their sack totals from several recent seasons through 9 games, and those seasons have had 13 and 14 games. So you would think the way the way that area is playing out for both of these 2 teams, that you might see Raleigh's own Bo Atkinson back there, Kamen Rucker back there. I mean, these guys are playing tremendously. They've got, I don't know where you and Victoria fall on some of, the nicknames for Bo Atkinson are sort of flying around right now. You've got Bo Satkinson.
Oh, nice.
I don't know.
I like that.
How do you feel about that?
I like it.
There's something, and I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but this occurred in my brain the other day in Tallahassee. The Bo Flex.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Plus, you don't need free weights for that.
He's flat, and we all. I don't mean to disparage any of us. We all are old enough to get the reference. I was telling one of the Daily Tar Heel student reporters the other day. I was like, "Dude, you're going to have to Google it." I mean, like this was a thing for people of a certain age. He had no idea what we were talking about.
Oh, the Bowflex was great. You know what? You should. If I were you, I would just keep using that because it's going to catch on.
I feel like there's NIL opportunities. Bo knows, Bo time for Bojangles without a doubt.
This is all good.
He was joking the other day about how he needed to work on his celebration after some of these sacks.
Okay.
He had like 5.5 in the last 2 games. I was like, no, you don't. Just keep because he's flexed. And
exactly.
That triggered the Bo Flex in one of our old and balding minds over here.
Very, very nice. Adam Smith. By the way, you can find that article at Adam_Smith_IC. Follow him on Twitter. I don't know if he's over on Blue Sky yet, but there's really not a lot going on there, and it seems the same to me as Twitter. All right, let me just flip to basketball. You talked about the Tar Heels playing at Allen Fieldhouse, and I thought that was just a fun basketball game to watch. It wasn't as much fun in the first half for Tar Heel fans, and I know they didn't like the outcome, but I thought we learned a ton about how good the Tar Heels can be. Jalen Withers looks like a much better player than he was a year ago, and he was good a year ago. I love Seth Trimble. I don't know if Elliot Cadeau really has a jump shot or not. He's still a great player, whether he's got one. I just thought that was fun. I think that this team clearly looks like a team that's going to be reckoned with all year long.
And just imagine if R.J. Davis starts making some shots.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around, isn't there?
It's kind of crazy to think that they led them. I mean, this was a game, as you said, that we all saw. They trailed by 20 a couple times in the first half.
Yep.
And they probably, I don't know if you want to say should, they certainly could have won the game. They're up 4 late, 87-83. And you got R.J. Davis goes 3 for 15 from the field.
Yeah.
If you're going into that game, if you're saying, all right, look, this is what the Tar Heels have to do to win, you'd probably say R.J. Davis needs to have a big game. You probably would think if you gave somebody the numbers and said he's going to shoot 3 for 15 from the field and 1 for 7 from 3, you're like, well, that's not going to work out for Carolina. But they have got some pieces. The portal misses excluded with the big men. That backcourt when Cadeau and RJ and Seth Trimble are cooking, and then you can bring 2 5-star freshmen like Ian Jackson and Drake Powell off the bench, which is probably a luxury not many teams, other than the Dukes of the world, have. I do think, as you saw, they had some issues defending Hunter Dickinson down low.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going, this is a long season and you're going to have some problems where you run into some teams that have that sort of strength in the post. But I also think that there are going to be some nights where this team gets hot and this team gets out in transition and they just beat teams by 20. They just sort of run them out of the building because they have a gear to where they can really turn it on. I think it was a 12-minute stretch of the game the other night at Kansas where they scored 44 points.
Yeah.
You know, like they have that gear, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oh, no, there's no question. I thought that was high-level offensive basketball for North Carolina. And again, when you get guys who you don't expect to start getting hot, especially from deep, the only thing I would have liked to have seen was a little bit more decisiveness from Powell, right? How many times did Powell get the ball in the corner when his man helped and he was open? He could have pulled the trigger and shot it, or maybe a pump fake and a drive, but he didn't do it. He just kind of held the ball. So, my guess is that a month from now, that won't happen. But I love that. And when they got in foul trouble, especially with their big men, they were definitely kind of vulnerable to Kansas's interior size. But I think they might be vulnerable to that anyway.
Yeah, that was a problem. And you're right about Drake Powell. I mean, people, you know how it is, the age that we live in, people expect you just to plug them in and like, all right, there's 15 points a game.
They're great.
Yeah. Right. Like, no one is a finished product by any means. And, the schedule is so fun. Like you've played the number one team in Kansas. Next month, or December 4th, they play the number 2 team in Alabama, which will be a huge game in Chapel Hill, given the recent histories between UNC and Alabama. Out in Maui, and I do not mean to rub this in anyone's face. A week from now, I will be headed to Hawaii.
Wow.
At this time. So you all can contact me if you need to Zoom anything.
Oh,
with
yes.
Background. But like in Maui, they're either going to play Iowa State or Auburn, 2 highly ranked teams for their second game, and then they could play UConn in the championship game. So you could play the number 1, 2, 3, and 5 teams before the second week of December. And December also has Florida in Charlotte and UCLA in Madison Square Garden. I mean, UCLA in Madison Square Garden at Christmas time?
Seems nice.
Oh, my God.
You should go there, too.
Vibes.
You should go there, too. And then, like, you should have on your Blue Sky homepage, you could have both pictures, the backgrounds of both pictures. Maui on one screen, and then New York sitting at the tree at Rockefeller Center on the other. Adam Smith, Inside Carolina. We're going to live vicariously through your travelogue. Thanks for coming on, man. We'll talk again very soon.
Always great, guys. Thanks for having me. I'll see you later.
You got Bowflex. That's what I'm talking about, Bowflex. All right, we have.
That was my favorite.
One.